Hello there and welcome to The Sleepy Scientist. Tonight we gently wander into the quiet presence of trees, the oldest living companions of the land, standing in patient silence across forests, mountains, valleys and city streets. Trees do not hurry, they do not chase time, they rise slowly through years and decades, shaping the air, softening the light and holding entire ecosystems in the calm shelter of their branches. To stand near a tree is to feel the steadiness of something that has learned how to wait without effort. As we begin, allow your body to settle into stillness. Let your breath slow down naturally without forcing it. Let the weight of today grow lighter with every slow exhale. You do not need to carry anything right now. You do not need to solve or prepare or remember. Imagine yourself resting beneath a wide canopy of leaves where shadows drift gently across the ground and the air feels cooler and quieter. The world above softens, the noise of distance fades, only the rhythm of nature remains. Tonight we will explore the most relaxing facts about trees, how they breathe with the wind, how they communicate beneath the soil, how they shape the air we breathe, how they remember the passing of time, and how their presence has gently guided both the earth and the human mind toward calm for thousands of years. If you enjoy these quiet journeys into nature and science, you're warmly invited to like, subscribe, and return whenever you need rest or wonder. But for now, let your thoughts slow down and let the forest rise gently in your imagination. Let's begin. Trees breathe in a way that is so slow and steady it often goes unnoticed, yet it quietly shapes the air around the entire planet. With every hour that passes, their leaves draw carbon dioxide from the sky and release oxygen back into the atmosphere in a continuous, unhurried exchange. This silent breathing is not driven by urgency but by balance. A single mature tree can release enough oxygen in one day to support multiple human lives, yet it does so without sound, without motion that draws attention, and without ever needing to be thanked. The air you breathe carries the quiet work of trees within each breath, even when they are far beyond what you can see. Trees do not grow in sudden bursts. Their growth is layered gently, season after season, year after year. Beneath the bark, each year adds a new ring of wood that records the story of rain, drought, warmth, and cold. These rings are not just marks of age, but quiet journals written in living tissue. A wide ring tells of a year filled with water and sunlight. A narrow one speaks of hardship and survival. When you look at a tree, you're looking at a living memory of climate, time, and endurance that cannot be erased. The roots of trees travel through the soil in slow, thoughtful patterns that mirror the shape of their branches above. They spread outward and downward in search of water and minerals, weaving through darkness with quiet purpose. These roots do not belong to a single tree alone. Beneath the ground, roots often intertwine with those of neighbouring trees, forming vast underground networks that share nutrients and chemical signals. What appears separate above the surface is deeply connected below. The forest becomes one shared system of quiet support. Trees communicate with one another through chemical messages that drift invisibly through the air and the soil. When one tree is injured by insects, it can release subtle signals that warn nearby trees to activate their own natural defenses. This communication happens without sound, without movement, and without any visible gesture. The forest responds as a quiet collective rather than as isolated individuals. Even in silence, trees listen and respond. Trees move water from the ground to the sky through a slow internal flow that never truly stops while they are alive. Through a process called transpiration, moisture rises from the roots through tiny vessels inside the trunk and exits as vapor through the leaves. This upward movement helps cool the tree and also cools the surrounding air. Entire forests act as massive natural air conditioners, softening heat and shaping local climates without machines, wires, or effort. The cool stillness beneath trees is not only shade, it is the feeling of moving water within living wood. Trees experience time very differently than humans do. A year to us is fast and fleeting. To a tree, a year is only a thin layer of growth added quietly beneath the bark. Some trees live for hundreds or even thousands of years, standing through generations of weather, seasons, human footsteps, and changing landscapes. They remain rooted as the world transforms around them. Their patience is not learned, it is built into their very nature. The presence of trees has a direct calming effect on the human nervous system. Studies have shown that simply being near trees can lower heart rate, reduce stress hormones, and slow, restless breathing. The mind relaxes more easily when natural vertical lines replace walls, and when moving leaves soften sharp sound. This response is not something we are taught. It is an instinct carried from eras when forests were the original shelter of the human species. Your body remembers trees even if your daily life is far from them. Trees shape sound as gently as they shape light. In forests, harsh noises become softened as waves of sound bounce against bark, branches, and leaves. Wind turns into a whisper. Footsteps turn into muted rhythms. Even distant storms sound calmer when filtered through layers of wood and foliage. The forest becomes a natural sound chamber designed for quiet rather than echo. This soft acoustic world is one reason forests feel so deeply peaceful to the human mind. Trees respond to the movement of the sun each day without ever changing their position. Their leaves rotate and adjust slightly to follow light through the sky. This slow, daily tracking allows them to absorb energy efficiently while never appearing to move at all. Their stillness is an illusion created by motion that is too gradual to see. Even when everything appears quiet, trees are constantly making small adjustments in response to the light above them. When a tree finally dies, it does not leave the forest. Its body becomes shelter for insects, birds, fungi, and small animals. Its wood softens and returns slowly to the soil. Its nutrients rejoin the underground networks that support living trees. Even in death, the tree remains part of the forest's breathing cycle. There is no sharp ending, only a slow release back into the same quiet system that once gave it life. Trees drink rain in a way that reshapes entire landscapes over long periods of time. When rainfall touches the leaves and branches, much of it is slowed and guided gently downward, rather than crashing directly into the soil. This soft redirection prevents erosion, protects the earth beneath, and allows water to sink slowly into underground layers where it can be stored for future dry seasons. Over decades and centuries, this quiet process rewrites the shape of hillsides, nourishes hidden springs, and ensures that rivers flow more steadily rather than violently. A tree does not merely stand in rain, it teaches rain how to move gently. Trees do not sleep the way humans do, yet their activity slows into a deep biological rest during the night. As darkness spreads, photosynthesis fades, internal energy production quiets, and the flow of nutrients shifts into maintenance rather than growth. This nightly rest allows trees to repair microscopic damage, rebalance internal water pressure, and prepare for morning light once again. Their rest is not unconscious, but it is restorative. It teaches that stillness itself is a form of healing. Trees feel the seasons not as calendar changes, but as temperature memory inside their tissues. When cold begins to linger in autumn, trees slow the movement of fluids inside their trunks, gradually releasing leaves to reduce water loss through winter. In spring, warmth returns slowly to the roots first, before rising upward through the trunk and into the branches. The entire body of the tree awakens from the ground up in one continuous upward wave of biological memory. Each season passes through the tree rather than around it. Trees form protective partnerships with fungi beneath the soil through networks known as mycorrhizae. These fungal threads wrap gently around tree roots and extend far into the earth, increasing the reach of the root system many times over. In exchange for sugars produced through photosynthesis, the fungi deliver water and minerals back to the tree. This silent exchange happens without consciousness or intention. It is pure cooperation written into biology. The forest thrives not through competition, but through mutual quiet exchange. Trees influence weather far beyond their immediate surroundings. Large forests release vast amounts of water vapor into the air through transpiration, forming clouds that influence rainfall patterns hundreds of miles away. In this way, trees quietly participate in shaping distant storms, guiding regional rain cycles, and stabilizing climate over entire continents. Their leaves touch sky without ever leaving the ground. Their influence rises invisibly and travels farther than their roots could ever reach. Trees grow stronger not by resisting wind, but by adapting to it. Gentle daily movement caused by breezes strengthens internal wood fibers over time. Each sway triggers microscopic adjustments that reinforce the trunk and root system. Trees that grow in quiet, sheltered environments often develop weaker structures than those shaped by movement. This quiet lesson shows that softness and resilience can coexist without conflict. Movement does not weaken them, it teaches them how to endure. Trees hold electric signals within their living tissues that move slowly in response to injury, touch, and chemical changes. When a branch is cut or damaged, faint electrical signals travel through the trunk to alert surrounding cells to begin repair. This signaling does not resemble human nerves. It is slower and more diffuse, yet it allows trees to remain aware of their own condition across vast internal distances. Even without consciousness, trees maintain a form of quiet self-awareness through living electricity. Trees breathe through tiny openings in their leaves called stomata, which open and close in response to light, humidity, and internal water pressure. These microscopic gates regulate the exchange of gases and moisture with the atmosphere. Each leaf carries thousands of these openings working in silent coordination. The exchange is constant yet invisible. Air is traded for life without sound. This quiet breathing links forests directly to the rhythm of the planet's atmosphere. Trees influence the chemistry of the air in ways that shape human mood without us ever noticing. Forests release natural compounds known as phytoncides that are absorbed by the human body during quiet walks among trees. These compounds have been shown to reduce stress hormones, improve immune function, and gently stabilize emotional states. The calming effect of a forest is not imagined. It is biological communication occurring between plant and human. Trees do not age in the same way humans do. Many species do not show clear signs of biological decline for hundreds of years. Their cells continue dividing, repairing, and adapting far longer than animal tissues allow. Some ancient trees remain biologically young, even after surviving for millennia. Time passes over them, but it does not claim them quickly. Their longevity reshapes how we understand lifespan itself. Trees carry water upward against gravity through a quiet internal system that works without pumps, motors, or forceful pressure. Inside the trunk, microscopic tubes guide water from the roots all the way to the highest leaves using a delicate balance of cohesion, tension, and evaporation. Each droplet is gently pulled upward as moisture leaves the leaves and rises into the air. This constant upward flow never announces itself. Yet every leaf, every branch, every shadow beneath the canopy depends on it. The entire towering presence of a tree is supported by this invisible upward whisper of water. Trees respond to prolonged drought not with panic but with careful conservation. As soil moisture decreases, they slowly narrow the tiny openings in their leaves to reduce water loss. Growth becomes slower. Energy is redistributed inward rather than outward. The tree quietly shifts into survival mode without altering its outward appearance dramatically. From a distance, it may still look steady and calm, even as complex internal adjustments unfold beneath the bark. Trees store sunlight inside their wood in the form of sugars and stable carbon compounds created through photosynthesis. This stored energy becomes the foundation for growth, repair, and even warmth within the trunk during cold seasons. When logs burn in a fire years later, the heat released is only sunlight returned after long, quiet storage. Every flame from wood is ancient daylight being released back into the world. Trees experience wind not as a threat, but as a subtle teacher. Daily movement strengthens their roots by encouraging deeper anchoring into the soil. The slight bending of the trunk under repeated gentle pressure trains the wood to distribute stress evenly. Over years, this quiet training builds resilience. Trees that grow in constant still air often break more easily because they were never taught how to bend. Trees influence underground water flow by slowing runoff and encouraging deep infiltration to aquifers. Rain that falls on forests does not rush away quickly. It is filtered through leaves, moss, roots, and soil layers before slowly descending into underground reservoirs. This filtration cleans the water naturally and ensures steady flow into rivers long after storms have passed. Forests quietly regulate water without infrastructure or machinery. Trees sense mechanical vibrations through their roots and trunks. When nearby movement occurs, such as footsteps, falling branches, or even distant machinery, faint vibrations travel through the ground and through surrounding trees. These sensations are processed through changes in internal pressure, electrical signaling, and fluid movement. The forest remains quietly aware of motion without possessing conscious perception. Trees that grow close together influence one another's shape over decades through gradual competition for light. Branches slowly curve away from shaded areas and expand into open space with patient precision. This process creates interlocking canopies that appear deliberate, even though they emerge purely through passive response to light. The sky above the forest becomes a mosaic, shaped by countless slow adjustments. Trees release oxygen not in dramatic bursts, but as a slow, continual outflow. Each leaf becomes a tiny point of atmospheric renewal that never rests during daylight hours. Forests therefore function as vast living lungs, quietly refreshing air across regions and continents. The breath you take carries the work of countless leaves that never knew your presence yet sustain it all the same. Trees respond to injury with calm repair rather than rapid regeneration. When bark is damaged, they form specialized tissue around the wound to seal and protect the internal layers. This healing process may take years, slowly wrapping the scar in new wood. The injury does not vanish. It becomes integrated into the tree's form as a quiet memory held within living tissue. Trees influence soil fertility through the gradual shedding of leaves, bark, and fine roots that return nutrients to the ground. This slow recycling builds rich forest soil over centuries. The ground beneath trees becomes darker, softer, and more biologically active. Life rises from what once fell. This silent exchange creates soil that can support generations of plants and organisms without external input. Trees maintain balance between expansion and limitation through internal chemical signals that regulate growth direction. When one side of a tree receives more light, specialized hormones shift growth toward that direction. Other areas slow gently. The entire structure adjusts smoothly without sharp turns or conflict. This balanced self-guidance gives trees their graceful asymmetry and quiet sense of intention. Trees change the chemistry of the air around them in quiet and continuous ways that shape how entire landscapes feel. Through their leaves, they release natural aromatic compounds that drift gently into the atmosphere. These invisible plant molecules soften sharp air, reduce airborne bacteria, and subtly influence the nervous systems of animals and humans alike. When you enter a forest and feel your breathing slow without knowing why, it is often because the trees have already spoken to your body through the air before your mind has noticed anything at all. Trees experience the passing of dawn and dusk through slow changes in internal fluid pressure, rather than through sight. As sunlight warms the leaves in the morning, water begins to rise again through the trunk. As evening cools the air, that upward movement eases. This daily pulse is so steady that it resembles a heartbeat shared across entire forests. Even when everything appears motionless, thousands of internal rivers are quietly flowing upward and downward inside living wood. Trees influence how snow falls, how long it stays, and how softly it melts. In winter, branches catch snowfall and hold it above the ground, allowing it to melt slowly rather than all at once. This gradual release of moisture prevents sudden flooding and ensures that soil receives water long after the storm has passed. Forests turn the violent fall of snow into a slow, quiet gift for the earth beneath them. Trees remember injury through altered growth patterns rather than through pain. A branch that once broke might cause a trunk to curve slightly in compensation. A scar may change the direction of new wood fibers. Over decades, the shape of a tree becomes a record of storms, wind, drought and recovery written directly into its posture. The tree does not erase what happened, it adapts around it with quiet resilience. Trees influence the temperature of the land in ways that shape entire ecosystems. Their shade prevents overheating during the day, and their slow release of stored warmth softens cold nights. In forests, temperature swings are always gentler than in open fields or cities. This moderation creates safe refuges for countless small animals and insects that depend on stability more than strength. Beneath trees, extremes become rare. Trees act as slow guardians of riverbanks and shorelines. Their roots anchor soil and prevent it from being pulled away by flowing water. Over time, these roots form living walls beneath the ground that hold land in place without concrete or steel. Rivers that pass through forested areas tend to move more gently. Their curves become stabilized by silent underground grasp. Trees absorb sound not only through leaves, but through wood itself. The countless layers of bark, fibers, and air pockets dampen high frequencies and soften echoes. This is why forests feel naturally quiet even when life inside them remains active. The very structure of trees is built to turn chaos into hush. Trees respond to prolonged darkness during winter by redistributing stored energy inward toward vital tissues. Growth pauses, expansion waits. The tree enters a state of deep biological preservation. This winter stillness is not weakness. It is calculated rest that allows explosive growth to return when light once again warms the land. Even in stillness, the tree is preparing quietly for renewal. Trees interact with animals not only by providing shelter and food, but by shaping animal behavior across generations. Birds choose nesting sites based on branch angles. Mammals carve pathways through root systems. Insects develop entire life cycles around bark textures and leaf timing. The presence of trees becomes architecture for life far beyond the plant itself. Forests are not scenery, they're structure. Trees do not release all leaves at once in autumn without reason. The gradual falling allows nutrients to be reclaimed slowly before the leaves detach fully. As the connection weakens, internal chemistry retrieves what it can before letting the leaf go. Even in letting go, trees practice conservation rather than waste. Trees exist in quiet conversation with the moon as well as with the sun. Faint lunar light influences nighttime moisture movement, temperature shifts in leaves, and the behavior of insects that pollinate flowers after dark. Even when humans sleep, trees remain gently attuned to silver rhythms passing silently across the sky. Trees measure years not in numbers but in fullness. A thick year, a thin year, a year of rain, a year of fire. Each one layers gently inside the trunk without judgment. The tree never rushes forward nor regrets what has already been stored. Time becomes a physical presence inside living wood. Trees hold sunlight inside their bodies long after the day has ended. During daylight hours, their leaves quietly transform light into stored energy through photosynthesis. When night arrives and the forest grows dark, that captured sunlight continues to exist inside the tree as sugars and chemical bonds. In this way, every tree carries yesterday's daylight within it, holding brightness inside wood while the world sleeps. Even in complete darkness, the memory of light remains stored in living fibres. Trees influence how fog forms and moves through a landscape. As warm air cools at night, moisture gathers around leaves and branches, softening into drifting mist. Forests slow the movement of that fog, holding it gently between trunks and under canopies. This creates rolling layers of visible moisture that move slowly rather than sweeping quickly across the land. The presence of trees turns fog from a fast-moving weather event into a slow atmospheric breath. Trees guide the movement of wind rather than resisting it. When strong air currents reach a forest, the first row of trees absorbs most of the force. The deeper layers feel only softened motion. This creates calm pockets within the forest where air moves gently even during storms. The canopy becomes a living filter that turns violence into hush as wind passes through layers of branches and leaves. Trees never grow toward perfection or symmetry. Their shape is always influenced by what they encounter: light, shade, wind, neighbouring trees. Even tiny changes in their surroundings alter the direction of branches and the curve of the trunk over decades. This creates forms that feel organic rather than engineered. Their beauty comes from adaptation rather than design. Trees store carbon inside their bodies in vast quantities, quietly removing it from the atmosphere and locking it into wood for centuries. Every ring added to a trunk is also a quiet act of climate balance. Old forests hold enormous reserves of stored carbon that once moved freely through the sky. By standing still, trees reshape the chemical balance of the entire planet. Trees teach animals the meaning of vertical space. Birds learn heights, squirrels learn pathways, insects learn layered routes between bark, leaves and air. Beneath trees, life does not move only across flat ground. It moves upward. It climbs. It descends. Trees turn the world into a quiet three-dimensional map of movement and refuge. Trees release water into the atmosphere, even during dry seasons, through deep-root systems that reach hidden underground moisture. When the surface soil turns dry and cracked, tree roots continue drawing water upward from deep layers of the earth. Through this quiet service, trees help maintain atmospheric moisture even when drought touches the surface. Their roots become bridges between hidden water and open sky. Trees respond to prolonged heat not with panic but with gradual adjustment. As temperatures rise, leaves subtly change their orientation to reduce direct sunlight exposure. Internal water flow increases to cool the tissues. Growth slows to preserve energy. These changes occur silently over days and weeks. The tree never signals distress loudly. It adjusts quietly and continues standing. Trees influence the chemistry of rainfall before it ever reaches the ground. As rain passes through leaves and branches, it absorbs trace minerals, plant compounds, and gentle acids. By the time it reaches the soil, it has already been transformed into a nutrient-rich drink for the earth below. Even rain becomes changed by passing through a living canopy. Trees outlive entire generations of animals, insects, and humans without altering their fundamental identity. People arrive beneath them. People leave. Roads appear. Buildings rise and fall. The tree continues its slow, upward reach. Its awareness is not bound to any single lifetime around it. This long presence gives trees a calm authority that never needs to assert itself. Trees do not hesitate when it is time to release what no longer serves them. Old branches fall when internal support weakens. Leaves let go when internal signals say the season has turned. Letting go is not a failure for a tree. It is a natural part of remaining strong. Release becomes an act of care rather than loss. Trees carry the quiet memory of storms inside their wood without ever reliving the force that shaped them. A lightning strike may carve a scar down a trunk. A violent wind may twist a branch permanently, yet the tree continues its slow work of lifting water, drawing light, and shaping air as though the disturbance never asked for attention. The wound becomes texture. The break becomes character. The tree does not resist its past. It quietly grows around it, allowing damage to become part of its living story without bitterness or regret. Trees change the way rain sounds before it reaches the ground. When water strikes bare earth, the sound is sharp and sudden. When it falls through layered leaves and branches, the sound becomes soft and rhythmic. Each leaf catches a droplet for a moment before releasing it below. The rainfall breaks into countless smaller impacts that turn noise into whisper. Forest rain becomes a gentle lullaby shaped by leaf after leaf slowing the fall. Trees hold entire weather systems inside their canopies for short moments at a time. Warm air lingers beneath branches in gentle layers. Cold air settles softly into shaded pockets. Moisture gathers in slow curls. The space beneath a tree is never the same as the open sky above it. It becomes a sheltered climate shaped by shade, water, and breath. A few steps into a forest can feel like walking into another season. Trees offer refuge not only in life, but also in decay. As wood softens and falls, it becomes homes for beetles, moths, fungi, and countless microscopic organisms. What once lifted leaves into sunlight becomes nourishment for life that thrives in darkness. The fallen tree does not disappear. It transforms into a quieter kind of shelter beneath the soil. Trees influence the movement of clouds over long distances. Large forested areas release vast amounts of moisture into the atmosphere through transpiration. This moisture rises and travels with air currents before returning as rain far away. In this way, trees participate in watering lands they may never touch directly. Their breath becomes someone else's river. Trees shape the colour of sunlight itself. When light passes through layers of leaves, it shifts in tone and temperature. Harsh brightness becomes green-tinted softness. The world beneath a canopy feels cooler not only in temperature but in colour. Time feels slowed by the colour of filtered light. Even shadows become gentle beneath leaves. Trees remember seasons through chemistry rather than memory. Each change in temperature alters hormone levels within the tree. These tiny chemical signals determine when to grow, when to shed, when to rest, when to awaken. The tree does not wait for instruction from the outside world, it carries the calendar within its fluids. Trees speak to insects through scent in a language older than sound. Flowers release particular fragrances that guide pollinators through invisible aromatic maps. Leaves release warning scents when attacked. Even bark carries message layers that determine which creatures approach and which stay away. The forest is never silent. It is constantly speaking in invisible perfumes. Trees shift the weight of the land itself. Over centuries, forests add organic matter to soil through falling leaves and root decay. This slowly deepens fertile ground, allowing landscapes to rise higher in life density than barren earth ever could. What begins as dust becomes forest floor through the patience of trees. Trees alter human thought without effort. People walk more slowly beneath branches, voices lower without instruction. Breathing deepens naturally. No sign tells the nervous system to calm down. The presence of trees speaks directly to the body in a language that existed before language itself. Trees exist as living proof that stillness can be powerful. They do not chase, they do not pursue, they do not demand. Yet they shape climates, stabilize land, feed ecosystems, guide water, filter air, and calm minds simply by continuing to stand where they are rooted. Their strength lies entirely in remaining. Trees carry the quiet memory of storms inside their wood, without ever reliving the force that shaped them. A lightning strike may carve a scar down a trunk. A violent wind may twist a branch permanently. Yet the tree continues its slow work of lifting water, drawing light and shaping air as though the disturbance never asked for attention. The wound becomes texture. The break becomes character. The tree does not resist its past. It quietly grows around it, allowing damage to become part of its living story without bitterness or regret. Trees change the way rain sounds before it reaches the ground. When water strikes bare earth, the sound is sharp and sudden. When it falls through layered leaves and branches, the sound becomes soft and rhythmic. Each leaf catches a droplet for a moment before releasing it below. The rainfall breaks into countless smaller impacts that turn noise into whisper. Forest rain becomes a gentle lullaby shaped by leaf after leaf slowing the fall. Trees hold entire weather systems inside their canopies for short moments at a time. Warm air lingers beneath branches in gentle layers. Cold air settles softly into shaded pockets. Moisture gathers in slow curls. The space beneath a tree is never the same as the open sky above it. It becomes a sheltered climate shaped by shade, water, and breath. A few steps into a forest can feel like walking into another season. Trees offer refuge not only in life, but also in decay. As wood softens and falls, it becomes homes for beetles, moths, fungi, and countless microscopic organisms. What once lifted leaves into sunlight becomes nourishment for life that thrives in darkness. The fallen tree does not disappear, it transforms into a quieter kind of shelter beneath the soil. Trees influence the movement of clouds over long distances. Large forested areas release vast amounts of moisture into the atmosphere through transpiration. This moisture rises and travels with air currents before returning as rain far away. In this way, trees participate in watering lands they may never touch directly. Their breath becomes someone else's river. Trees shape the colour of sunlight itself. When light passes through layers of leaves, it shifts in tone and temperature. Harsh brightness becomes green-tinted softness. The world beneath a canopy feels cooler not only in temperature but in colour. Time feels slowed by the colour of filtered light. Even shadows become gentle beneath leaves. Trees remember seasons through chemistry rather than memory. Each change in temperature alters hormone levels within the tree. These tiny chemical signals determine when to grow, when to shed, when to rest, when to awaken. The tree does not wait for instruction from the outside world. It carries the calendar within its fluids. Trees speak to insects through scent in a language older than sound. Flowers release particular fragrances that guide pollinators through invisible aromatic maps. Leaves release warning scents when attacked. Even bark carries message layers that determine which creatures approach and which stay away. The forest is never silent. It is constantly speaking in invisible perfumes. Trees shift the weight of the land itself. Over centuries, forests add organic matter to soil through falling leaves and root decay. This slowly deepens fertile ground, allowing landscapes to rise higher in life density than barren earth ever could. What begins as dust becomes forest floor through the patience of trees. Trees alter human thought without effort. People walk more slowly beneath branches. Voices lower without instruction. Breathing deepens naturally. No sign tells the nervous system to calm down. The presence of trees speaks directly to the body in a language that existed before language itself. Trees exist as living proof that stillness can be powerful. They do not chase. They do not pursue. They do not demand. Yet they shape climates, stabilize land, feed ecosystems, guide water, filter air, and calm minds simply by continuing to stand where they are rooted. Their strength lies entirely in remaining. Trees remain quietly aware of gravity throughout their entire lives, constantly adjusting the direction of their growth in response to its pull. Even when a tree is tilted by wind, landslide, or shifting soil, it slowly bends its future growth upward again through a process so gradual it cannot be seen in real time. Inside the wood, special cells form on one side of the trunk, gently pulling the tree back toward vertical balance. This silent correction may take years, even decades, yet the tree never stops responding. It listens constantly to the invisible downward pull of the planet and answers with patient upward strength. Trees create entire vertical worlds within a single trunk. From the dark soil at the roots to the sunlit leaves at the highest branches, temperature, moisture, light, and life change dramatically along the height of one tree. Moss and fungi may thrive near the base where shade is deep and humidity is high. Birds, insects, and small mammals live higher, where air flows freely and sunlight feeds leaves. A single tree becomes a rising ladder of ecosystems stacked quietly within one living body. Trees shape the way fire behaves across landscapes. In healthy forests, moisture stored in living trees slows the spread of flames, while spacing between trunks prevents heat from jumping too quickly. Fire moves with lower intensity, cleansing the forest floor without destroying the canopy. Trees that evolved alongside fire even carry protective bark that insulates their inner living layers. Flames that would destroy buildings often pass slowly through forests as controlled renewal, rather than catastrophe. Trees store sound within their leaves during rainfall and wind. Every drop that lands on a leaf creates a tiny vibration that is absorbed before it can echo. Every breeze that moves through branches loses its harsh edges as it passes through layers of soft surfaces. This is why forests feel acoustically different from open land. Harsh noise dissolves into gentle texture. Even storms feel distant when filtered through thousands of living sound cushions. Trees sense the presence of neighbouring trees through root pressure and chemical signals. When another tree grows close, subtle shifts in underground space and nutrient availability are detected. Growth patterns adjust quietly to avoid direct conflict. Instead of battling violently for territory, trees often redirect roots and branches into open zones where light and water remain plentiful. The forest becomes an ongoing negotiation of living boundaries carried out in slow motion. Trees convert violent energy into stability. Wind that could level open ground crashes first into trunks and canopies where it is dispersed upward, outward, and downward through layers of wooden roots. The force breaks apart as it travels through branches, twigs, and leaves until only soft movement remains beneath. The violence of air becomes a quiet sway. The storm is translated into gentle motion at ground level. Trees influence how humans interpret space and safety. Open land feels exposed. Forest space feels enclosed yet protected. This psychological shift happens instantly without conscious reasoning. The vertical lines of trunks create natural walls. The canopy creates a ceiling of living shade. The nervous system interprets this structure as shelter, even when no building exists. Trees shape feelings of safety through spatial design alone. Trees bend time in human memory. Moments experienced under trees often feel longer than those spent in enclosed indoor spaces. The moving light, the layered sound, the gentle airflow, all of it stretches subjective time into something slower and wider. People remember forest moments in greater detail than moments surrounded by artificial surfaces. Trees expand awareness without asking for attention. Trees quietly teach death as part of continuity rather than as an ending. Dead trunks standing among living forests become homes for woodpeckers, owls, insects, and fungi. Life continues upward even as wood breaks down. What falls becomes foundation. What fades becomes food. The forest shows that nothing truly leaves, it only changes its role. Trees carry the weight of snow without complaint. Branches lower gently under the pressure. Twigs release excess buildup when the load becomes too heavy. The tree adjusts its posture rather than resisting the weight directly. The burden does not become struggle, it becomes balance. Trees quietly balance the chemistry of the world without ever appearing to work. With every slow exchange of gases through their leaves, they pull in invisible carbon from the air and release oxygen back into the sky. This exchange happens continuously while light is present. No sound marks the process. No movement is visible. Yet the atmosphere itself is reshaped by this steady rhythm. Every breath you take has passed through the quiet work of countless trees. woven invisibly into the air before it ever reaches your lungs. Trees store storms inside their rings. Years of heavy rain leave their mark as wide growth bands. Years of drought tighten those bands into thin lines. Fires, floods, freezing winters, gentle springs, all of it is written silently into the body of the trunk. A single cut across a tree reveals a circular history of weather and survival, each ring a memory that never fades. The tree does not forget the past, it wears it gently inside its wood. Trees release warmth long after the sun has disappeared. During the day, their massive bodies absorb heat slowly. At night, they give that warmth back to the air in barely noticeable waves. This gentle release softens nighttime cold beneath the canopy and steadies temperature shifts close to the ground. Animals resting under trees feel this protection without knowing it. The forest becomes a blanket of quiet thermal balance. Trees guide moonlight as softly as they guide sunlight. Silver light slips between leaves and branches, breaking into fractured patterns that drift slowly across the forest floor. Unlike direct sunlight, moonlight carries no heat and no urgency. It becomes texture rather than brightness. The forest under moonlight feels suspended between waking and dreaming. Trees become shadow structures etched in pale glow, holding the night in stillness. Trees shape the way rivers think. Where forest roots line riverbanks, water slows as if learning patience. Currents become smoother, erosion becomes gentle, flooding becomes less violent. In these places, rivers carve with care rather than force. The presence of trees teaches water how to move without destroying what it touches. Trees soften the passage of age in the land around them. Open ground erodes quickly, forest soil builds slowly. Leaves fall year after year, roots die and renew, microorganisms break everything down in quiet cycles. The forest floor becomes deep and alive, layered with decades of returning life. What seems unchanged above ground is constantly being rewritten below in silent renewal. Trees influence sleep without ever being present. Even when people return to cities after time in forests, their nervous systems remain calmer for hours or days afterward. Heart rhythms slow, stress hormones stay lower, mental activity softens more easily. The body remembers trees long after the eyes no longer see them. The forest follows quietly through memory and biology. Trees tune the rhythm of insects with seasonal precision. When spring arrives, subtle changes in leaf chemistry awaken dormant eggs. When autumn cools the air, invisible hormonal shifts signal life cycles to slow and prepare for rest. Entire populations of living creatures move in harmony with trees that never speak a word. The forest becomes a conductor of countless hidden rhythms. Trees hold darkness gently rather than fighting it. At night, beneath thick canopies, artificial light fades quickly. Stars disappear behind layered leaves. The world becomes quieter, slower, more intimate. In this darkness, animals move confidently along remembered paths. The forest becomes a place where night is not feared but embraced as part of balance. Trees remain still long enough to witness everything. They watch storms gather and dissolve. They watch animals arrive and leave. They watch human paths appear and fade. They hold space without interruption while life moves constantly around them. Their stillness is not emptiness, it is attentive presence. Trees quietly translate the passage of years into height, depth, and presence rather than into numbers. A passing decade does not announce itself to a tree. It arrives as thicker bark, deeper roots, broader shadows, and heavier branches that hold more sky than before. Time does not feel like movement inside a tree. It feels like accumulation. What changes is not speed, but fullness. Trees quietly rehearse patience every moment they exist. They do not react instantly to the world the way animals do. They respond through weeks, months, and years. A drought does not trigger panic. A storm does not cause fear. The tree alters water flow slowly. It shifts energy distribution gradually. Its entire existence is a lesson in responding without rushing. Trees carry winter inside them long before the first frost arrives. As daylight shortens, internal chemistry begins to change. Sugars concentrate, cell walls thicken, leaves slowly loosen their grip. The tree prepares quietly for cold while the air may still feel warm. Winter begins inside the tree before it ever arrives in the sky. Trees hold silence even when surrounded by noise. Traffic may roar nearby, machinery may vibrate the ground, human voices may echo through branches, yet inside the trunk, the inner world of water movement, cellular repair, and chemical exchange continues undisturbed. The tree does not absorb chaos, it filters it away. Trees translate sunlight into shadow and shadow into calm. Without trees, sunlight strikes the ground harshly. With trees, light becomes patterned and soft. Movement of leaves turns brightness into gentle flicker. The eye rests instead of strains. The mind relaxes instead of tightens. Trees adjust light into a language the nervous system understands as safety. Trees shape the way memory feels in the human mind. Many people remember the feeling of a specific tree better than they remember exact words spoken beneath it. The sense of bark under fingers, the smell of leaves, the sound of wind through branches. Trees become emotional landmarks that anchor memory gently and without effort. Trees never stop being students of their environment. A shift in soil chemistry alters root direction. A new shadow changes branch growth. A nearby fallen tree opens fresh light that triggers new shoots. The tree is always learning without awareness. It adapts without planning. It evolves without striving. Trees slow the pace of grief. Many cultures place remembrance beneath trees for a reason. People sit near trunks when words have lost meaning. The steady presence of living wood beside fragile emotion allows sorrow to soften naturally. Trees do not comfort through speech, they comfort through time. Trees turn storms into stories rather than disasters. A lightning scar becomes a twisting path of pale wood. A broken limb becomes a hollow where animals lay to rest. What arrives as violence transforms into structure. The tree does not erase the storm, it reshapes the story into one of survival. Trees remain after everything else has learned to leave. Buildings age quickly, roads fracture, machines rust. Trees remain when human plans fade. Long after names disappear, a tree may still cast shade in the same place. It becomes the quiet witness that outlives intention. Trees quietly correct their own weight over time as branches grow heavier. When a limb becomes too dense with leaves or moisture, internal growth patterns shift within the wood to strengthen weak points. New fibers form where stress is greatest. This slow self-reinforcement happens without awareness or urgency. The tree does not resist gravity with tension, it adapts to it with patience. Over years, the structure reshapes itself just enough to keep balance without force. Trees change the way darkness feels beneath them. In open land, night can feel wide and exposed. Beneath branches, darkness becomes soft and held. Shadows gather in layers rather than in emptiness. The sky is broken into fragments by leaves and limbs. The world feels smaller and safer. Even fear seems to move more slowly under trees. Trees create invisible corridors of scent that guide wildlife through forests, even in complete darkness. Animals follow faint chemical trails left by bark oils, leaf compounds, and soil interactions beneath roots. These pathways shift with wind, moisture, and temperature. The forest becomes a maze made of fragrance rather than walls. Life moves through it quietly by memory and instinct. Trees slow the speed of human thought without instruction. When sitting near a tree, the brain naturally reduces the frequency of rapid mental loops. Attention widens instead of narrowing. The body begins to breathe deeper without being told to do so. This calming effect does not rely on belief. It occurs even in people who know nothing about trees at all. Trees continue adapting even when surrounded by artificial environments. A tree growing near concrete will curve its roots through cracks to reach moisture. Branches bend around buildings in search of light. leaves adjust chemistry to polluted air. The tree does not reject the modern world. It survives calmly inside it without complaint. Trees carry quiet seasonal urgency that humans rarely notice. When spring warmth reaches a precise threshold, chemical signals surge upward through trunks at remarkable speed. Buds swell, leaves unfold, sap rises. What looked dormant suddenly becomes alive with motion beneath the bark. The transition is fast inside and gentle outside. Renewal happens without spectacle. Trees reduce the violence of sunlight over time by teaching the land how to hold light gently. Open ground reflects glare. Forest ground absorbs warmth slowly. As trees spread, sunlight becomes filtered instead of blinding, the eye softens, the land cools. Bright energy becomes usable energy rather than overwhelming force. Trees translate wind into movement that feels comforting rather than threatening. The same wind that howls across open plains becomes a whisper among leaves. Branches sway instead of snap. The motion becomes rhythmic. The danger dissolves into a lullaby of motion and sound shaped by wooden leaf. Trees hold temperature memory within their mass. After long heat waves, trunks release stored warmth slowly for days. After extended cold, internal tissues remain chilled long after the air begins to warm. Trees respond more slowly than weather itself. They carry yesterday's climate inside today. Trees never compete loudly. Even when light is scarce and roots overlap, trees rarely engage in aggressive domination. They yield where needed, they stretch where they can, they adjust instead of attack. The forest becomes a place of slow compromise rather than sudden conflict. Trees quietly adjust how much light they accept each season without ever changing their position in the world. As days shorten and the sun lowers in the sky, leaves subtly alter their internal chemistry to absorb what light remains with greater efficiency. When days grow longer again, that same chemistry shifts back. The tree does not chase the sun, it reshapes itself to welcome whatever light arrives. This quiet acceptance allows it to thrive without pursuit. Trees influence the emotional rhythm of landscapes, even when people are not present. A hillside covered in trees feels slower than a bare slope. A road lined with trees feels calmer than one surrounded by empty space. Even when no one is watching, the presence of trees softens the mood of the land. They become emotional architects of places that do not require human attention to feel peaceful. Trees carry microscopic cities inside their bark. Beneath the outer surface, countless microorganisms live among wood fibers and moisture pockets. Bacteria, fungi, and insects share tiny hidden environments that never touch open air. These miniature worlds exist quietly inside living trunks, each one shaped by temperature, moisture, and chemical balance provided by the tree itself. Trees quietly influence the chemistry of dreams in people who sleep near them. Studies have shown that people resting in forested environments enter deeper stages of sleep more easily. Their nervous systems slow faster, their breathing becomes steadier, their dreams often become calmer and more vivid. The body remembers how to rest when trees are close. Trees never hurry to heal. When damaged, they isolate injured tissue with slow layers of protective growth. Instead of repairing quickly and aggressively, they seal gently and steadily. Over years, what was once an open wound becomes a smooth curve hidden beneath fresh bark. Healing becomes part of shape rather than a return to what once was. Trees translate vertical space into gentle security. The upward stretch of trunks invites the eye to move slowly rather than dart quickly. This vertical pull lifts thought upward without triggering alertness. The mind follows the structure naturally into stillness. Height becomes calm rather than threat. Trees influence how long winter feels in the human mind. In open land, winter can feel sharp and endless. In forests, snow melts more slowly but also feels less harsh. Wind is softened, light becomes textured, time feels wrapped rather than exposed. Trees alter the emotional weight of cold seasons without changing temperature itself. Trees hold quiet conversations with the soil through pressure and vibration as roots grow and shift. As roots encounter stones, packed earth, or living neighbours, tiny physical signals travel through tissues. These silent messages adjust growth direction and strength. The underground world becomes a slow dialogue of touch rather than sound. Trees do not experience loneliness even when standing alone. A single tree in open land continues its rhythms exactly as a forest tree does. It still talks to soil bacteria, it still listens to wind, it still tracks light and season. Connection does not require visible companions, it exists through invisible systems. Trees remain calm even in places shaped by constant change, along riverbanks, on shifting dunes, on mountain slopes. Their roots adapt endlessly to movement beneath them. The ground may shift, but the tree continues correcting, anchoring, and balancing slowly until stillness is found again. Stability becomes an ongoing act rather than a fixed condition. Trees quietly stretch their roots wider than their branches in many species, forming vast underground mirrors of the forms we see above the ground. While the canopy gathers light, the roots explore darkness with equal patience. This hidden expansion allows the tree to remain balanced even when winds push strongly against its upper body. What you see and what you cannot see exist in quiet partnership. The visible beauty of a tree is always supported by invisible reach beneath the soil. Trees shape the way dust moves through the air by slowing wind close to the ground. As breezes pass through forests, they lose their strength against layers of leaves and trunks. Dust settles softly instead of circulating endlessly. The air beneath trees becomes cleaner and heavier with calm. This is why light looks smoother and softer in wooded places. Even floating particles learn to rest. Trees influence how the brain separates foreground from background. In dense forests, there are no sharp empty horizons. The eye meets layers upon layers of form, shadow, and depth. This visual complexity gently prevents the nervous system from locking onto sudden threats. The mind relaxes into soft scanning rather than sharp focus. Trees teach the brain how to settle naturally. Trees carry the quiet echo of ancient climates within their genetic memory. Species adapt slowly over generations to temperature shifts, rainfall patterns, and seasonal length. These adaptations remain stored inside their biology long after environments change again. Modern forests still carry internal traces of ice ages, warming eras, and ancient droughts through genetic memory shaped across deep time. Trees change how silence feels rather than how silence sounds. Beneath branches, silence becomes filled rather than empty. You feel quiet as presence rather than absence. Even without birds or wind, the stillness beneath trees carries weight and texture. The nervous system does not feel abandoned, it feels held. Trees welcome rain with an acceptance that reshapes the meaning of storms. What arrives violently in open space becomes scattered into thousands of gentle impacts across leaves. The canopy converts force into rhythm. The sound becomes layered. The motion becomes slow. Rain becomes not an event but an ongoing state of calm. Trees regulate how sunlight touches human skin. In open sun, light strikes sharply. Under leaves, it drifts across the body in moving patterns of shade and warmth. This flickering light lowers tension without removing brightness entirely. The body remains alert but not strained. Trees make light comfortable. Trees interact with time in two directions at once. They carry the accumulated past inside their rings while actively shaping the future through seeds and falling branches. What they release becomes tomorrow's forest. What they hold becomes yesterday's weather. They exist as living bridges between what has passed and what has not yet arrived. Trees alter how loneliness is experienced by the human mind. Sitting near a tree reduces the feeling of separation even in complete solitude. The steady presence of living form provides companionship without demand. You do not feel watched. You do not feel ignored. You simply feel accompanied. Trees give permission for rest without teaching it. Animals lie beneath branches instinctively. Humans lean against trunks without instruction. Even insects cluster in shaded stillness when movement becomes unnecessary. The forest becomes a shared agreement that nothing urgent needs to happen here. Trees quietly change how fear behaves in living beings. In open land, fear spreads outward with nowhere to settle. Beneath trees, fear has edges. It slows. It finds interruption in trunks, roots, shadows, and layered depth. The nervous system senses boundaries that feel protective rather than restricting. Even without understanding why, animals and humans alike feel safer when fear has somewhere to rest. Trees translate rainfall into patience. In open ground, water rushes. Beneath trees it lingers. Leaves pause each droplet. Bark redirects small streams. Roots guide moisture downward in slow spirals rather than sudden collapses. The earth beneath a forest drinks slowly instead of choking on excess. Trees teach water how to wait. Trees soften the way footsteps feel on the body. Walking on forest soil is never as sharp as walking on bare stone. Layers of leaves, roots, and living ground absorb impact before it reaches bone. Each step becomes cushioned. Movement becomes gentler. Even the simple act of walking changes its character beneath trees. Trees influence the way the eyes rest at distance. In open spaces, the eye searches far and wide with effort. In forests, the eye meets layers at varying distances. Near bark, mid-distance branches, far shadows. The eye relaxes into natural depth instead of strain. Vision becomes exploration rather than vigilance. Trees hold quiet authority over insects without domination. The timing of leaf growth dictates when eggs hatch. The chemistry of bark determines which creatures may stay. The fall of leaves signals when cycles must slow. Insects do not obey trees. They move in response to the quiet rules written into air, surface, and season. Trees shape how sound fades rather than how sound appears. In open spaces, sound disappears abruptly. In forests, sound dissolves gradually. Each echo loses a fragment of itself as it passes through leaves and limbs. Nothing vanishes sharply. Everything softens on the way out. Trees do not age with bitterness even when damaged. A broken top does not trigger collapse. Growth redirects around absence. A missing branch simply becomes space for air. The tree does not behave as though something is missing. It behaves as though something new has been added. Trees quietly collect human attention without demanding it. People glance at trees without staring. They notice without studying. Trees become background guardians of awareness. You're aware of their presence without needing to analyze it. This effortless awareness allows the mind to rest instead of fixating. Trees shift how cold feels when you touch them. Cold stone feels harsh. Cold metal steals warmth quickly. Cold bark absorbs slowly. The exchange feels gentler. Even winter contact becomes softened through living fiber, rather than punished through rigid surface. Trees create spaces where time forgets to hurry. Under branches, people linger longer without realizing it. Conversations slow naturally. Silences feel comfortable. The pressure to move on dissolves. Nothing tells you to stay. Nothing tells you to leave. You simply remain. Trees quietly synchronize their rhythms with the larger breathing of the planet. As daytime warmth rises and nighttime cool settles, trees adjust the movement of water inside their trunks in harmony with temperature and pressure in the air. This daily pulse mirrors the planet's own slow inhalation and exhalation. The forest becomes a living extension of Earth's breath, rising and falling in invisible waves of moisture and calm. Trees soften the contrast between what is solid and what is fluid. Their wood is firm yet flexible. Their leaves catch water yet release it. Their roots hold soil yet allow water to pass through. They exist at the boundary between stability and motion without ever choosing one over the other. This balance teaches that strength and softness can live together without conflict. Trees quietly create privacy without isolation. Beneath branches you are hidden from distant view, yet not closed in. Light still enters, air still moves, sound still drifts. You feel sheltered without feeling trapped. This gentle enclosure allows the nervous system to lower its guard without losing awareness of the world beyond. Trees absorb human presence without reacting to it. You may lean against a trunk. You may sit among roots. You may whisper or remain silent. The tree does not change its behavior. It continues its internal movements without acknowledging you or rejecting you. This neutrality creates a rare companionship free from expectation. Trees shape the way the body experiences stillness. Sitting beneath a tree feels different from sitting in an empty room. The stillness does not feel stagnant. It feels alive. Subtle movement of leaves and air gives stillness texture. The body relaxes without falling into restlessness. Trees transform decay into quiet nourishment. What falls as dead leaf becomes living soil. What breaks as branch becomes shelter for life that hides beneath. The forest never defines decay as loss. It defines it as preparation. Every ending becomes raw material for another beginning that unfolds without urgency. Trees influence how humans measure height and scale. A tall building feels overwhelming because it confronts the eye abruptly. A tall tree invites the eye gradually upward, along a soft curve of trunk and branches. Height becomes a journey rather than a challenge. The upward gaze feels curious rather than defensive. Trees hold the warmth of human hands differently than stone or metal ever could. When you touch bark, the exchange of heat happens slowly. The tree does not steal warmth, it accepts it gently. The contact feels mutual rather than draining. Even a brief touch becomes grounding rather than jarring. Trees allow the sky to be seen in fragments rather than as one vast expanse. Through branches and leaves, the sky appears in moving pieces of blue and silver. The immensity of the heavens becomes softer and more personal. The infinite becomes approachable through leaves. Trees exist without an ending in mind. They grow without chasing completion. They age without anticipating disappearance. Their entire existence is oriented toward continuing rather than finishing. This absence of final urgency is what gives trees their deep sense of peace. As our quiet journey through the world of trees slowly comes to rest, allow your thoughts to grow softer and lighter, like leaves drifting gently toward the forest floor. The trees will remain standing in silence long after this moment fades, continuing their slow exchange of breath and light, water and time, holding the sky above and the earth below in steady balance. They will keep growing without needing to hurry, keep giving without needing to be seen, and keep teaching patience without ever speaking a word. Somewhere in the world right now, roots are spreading through cool soil, leaves are lifting toward unseen stars, and wood is quietly thickening inside trunks that will outlive countless passing seasons. The forest does not rush toward tomorrow, and it does not cling to yesterday. It simply remains steady and present, reminding the world that true strength does not need force, and true calm does not need silence to exist. As you drift closer to sleep, imagine yourself resting beneath a wide and ancient canopy where shadows move slowly, where the air feels safe and cool, and where every breath seems to slow itself naturally. Let the steadiness of trees guide your heartbeat into a softer rhythm. Let their patience settle into your thoughts. Let their quiet presence remain with you through the night. Thank you for spending this still moment with the sleepy scientist. If this journey brought you a sense of rest, you're always welcome to return. Until the next time, may your sleep be deep, your dreams gentle, and your mind as calm as a forest at dusk. Good night.